So hi, my name is Cheryl and welcome to another floral share video. I'm so glad you're with me today. So something I want to discuss with you that took me by surprise, and maybe it's going to surprise you too. While doing some research for this channel, I came across several articles that said, do not use oasis. It's dangerous. Dangerous? I have used this stuff for years, for decades. I found that I am woefully ignorant about the properties of oasis. It is a polypropylene plastic that's made with formaldehyde. Yuck. I must be living under a rock because I'd never heard of this before. Well, come to find out, there are many florists that have known this for years and they've decided to go foam free. That means they're not using oasis anymore. And in fact, the Royal Horticulture Society has banned oasis in the Chelsea Flower Show. If you are in the floral industry, you know that's huge. Wow. So I also discovered that there is a movement called sustainable floristry. Florists are trying their best to recycle, reuse, or compost as much as possible, as well as reduce the amount of plastics that they use. Hence, no oasis, foam free. So what does that mean for us and what kind of alternatives are there? Let me show you. Chicken wire. And what you do is you make these like little pillows, if you will, these little packages, little squishy packages, or cages. It's also called a pillow. It's made out of plastic. It's kind of a clamshell shape. There's also these grids that you would lay on top of your container. This one's metal. It can bend and shape around. And then a classic is a frog pen. This has been used for centuries. This was actually introduced in China like 3,000 years ago. I can't believe we're still using that. It's marvelous. So what I want to do is do a video on each one of these and share my opinion. I want to examine how expensive they are, how easy they are to use, and what's the overall outcome of using this as opposed to oasis. So I'm really very excited to try something that's brand new to me. So let's get started. Okay, so supplies for today's project will be, today I've decided to use a 5 by 5 by 5 cube. And then we're going to examine chicken wire. And so this chicken wire, I believe it is, I think, about a ½ inch in diameter with these little cells. That's what they're called, little cells. Okay, you'll need something to cut your chicken wire. I have these nice little snips, little heavy-duty scissors. I like these. Of course, you'll use some tape to secure your chicken wire onto your container. I have some cut gloves to handle the chicken wire. This is a coated chicken wire, and so it's not quite so sharp on your hands, but safety first. I will be using a florist knife, and that's going to help me shave down any of maybe the foliage or any kind of bumpy parts on my flowers to be able to get it through the chicken wire a little bit easier. Gotta get the good stuff, the flowers. So what I've gotten for today's project is actually what's called a chop and drop or a weekly bouquet. I found one that had lots of great texture. It's got a beautiful focal flower, which is this hydrangea, as well as an Asiatic lily, some great sunflowers, a couple of pretty roses, love the Gerber daisies. And then I've got some other little accents for fill. These gorgeous delphiniums, love how delicate and lacy they are. And this is a fun accent. It's called Euringium. It is in the thistle family. And then a little bit of blue perum. And then I've got some mixed greens for fill. Of course, we don't want to see any of our mechanics. Let's go. Safety first. All right, so we'll roll out some of our chicken wire. And to measure, what we want is about double the amount of your container. So that's about 5 inches. We'll slide it over. That's 10 inches, and we can give ourselves a little bit of room. And what we're going to do is actually cut in between the little cells. And I have my super sharp, heavy duty little scissors. I don't like using my snips because I want my snips to stay sharp for my flowers. Okay, we're going to go right in between the little cells. There we go, done. So this is one of the reasons why you want to wear some safety gloves. All of these little prongs right here can be very sharp and rough on your skin. Next thing we're going to do is make a little pocket. Now I do know quite a few people will make just like a little ball and put that in, but I found that what happens is that you end up with too many layers and you can't get your flowers all the way through. So we're going to make a little envelope, if you will. Going to line up the little prongs. And still, you know, this is just one way of doing it. This is just the way that I found it to be comfortable. After I've lined up my little prongs, what I'm going to do is take my needle nose pliers, and I forgot to put this in supplies. Literally going to take them, twist the prong, and then fold it in. Just a little twist, and then you're going to secure it in. And I'm going to do that all the way through. I'm not sure that you need to watch me do every single one of them, but okay, so as you can see, I've bent down all of my little prongs, and now what I'm going to do is measure my container, and I'm not going to go quite double the container, but I want a couple of inches on either side. So there's 2 inches here, let's go 2 inches here, and then I'm going to cut in between the cells. Now what we're going to do is make a nice little kind of envelope, if you will. I'm going to give it a good squish. And then I'm going to fold down the sides, and that's about that 2 inches that we're going to fold down. You can see where the gloves come in handy. Now there's no right way or no wrong way to do this. You just kind of figure out what works best for you. I'm still playing with this, of course. And then I'm just going to give it a nice little squish. So it will go in my container. And then I'm probably going to fuss with it a little bit because I just can't help. But what you're looking for is 2 layers of your wire so that you can have not only support up here, but you have support down here to be able to have your flowers positioned exactly how you want them. I am always going to go old school and do a little bit of taping. We're going to use our waterproof tape. You wouldn't necessarily have to do this if you were at home, but if you were going to be transporting this, a little bit of tape just kind of keeps it in place and so your whole piece doesn't roll out. We are set. We are ready to put flowers in. Let's make some magic. Okay, so we want to start with our largest flower, this beautiful little hydrangea. We're going to take off some of these leaves because those leaves are going to get in the way of our chicken wire. And then I noticed when I was looking at this, there's a couple little spots that, little brown bits on there. Sometimes you get a little bit of a sweaty Betty, as I call them, from the packaging. You can just pluck those off. And I'm going to measure right about here and cut. So here's going to be the tricky part, is getting them through those layers of chicken wire. Getting them to hold, look at that, just a little bit of brown, pick them off. So the next thing that I want to do is kind of start shaping my arrangement. And I know I've wired some of these in the past, but I just kind of want to give this a very organic kind of free form. Let's see where the flowers actually go. The one thing about the chicken wire that I discovered is that it does not handle super, super large flowers. Some of your larger things like big giant sunflowers are going to have an issue. There are different gauges of chicken wire. I think there's one that's about 1 inch. And if you find that something is twisting or too loose, you can always support it, you know, change your position and get it into another piece, another cell, if you will, or you can support it using greens. Do some of this gorgeous blue. Now, I want to be able to use some of these little pieces that are in through here. So I'm going to edit these out and save them for later. And I just really want this kind of very loose, very natural, organic feel to this. When we add on the other side, what I don't want to do is line it up with this one. I want to make it a little bit lower, and we can certainly edit out more of these little pieces. I think I've got a theme going on with the yellow and the blue. Obviously, I love it. Now, one thing about your lily is it's going to have pollen. You see these little bits right here. Well, if you remove those before they've had a chance to oxidize, which means it gets fuzzy and rusty, makes such a mess. But if you remove it like this, you won't have those worries. So I'm going to measure up here. It's a pretty dominant flower, and I want to clean off all the mess. And yeah, I think that works out. Now we have our sunflowers, and these are a fairly delicate sunflower, and that's one of the reasons why I thought that would work with this chicken wire. And let's bring some of this weight down here. And sometimes it needs a little coercion to get in there. There we go. I think that's good. And we certainly don't want to forget about the back, so what I'm going to do is put one back here as well. And then let's start putting some greens in. I think it needs some weight. So I have this fantastic Pittosporum, and this is really going to take up a lot of room. If you're down past, or I should just say if you're just down in the southern states, everybody has this in their yard, and it's just fantastic. And I just want to make sure that I'm covering my mechanics as well as giving this some nice texture as we go along. You know, I love my Floral. It's inexpensive, it's easy to find, and it covers beautifully. I have some little buggies, you know, those go in the back. And remember, your greens give things weight as well as covering up your container and your chicken wire and your tape. I've got a couple of other pretty little focal flowers that I want to use here. Let's pop him right in there. And then I think we'll do another one over here. I don't want them to be in a row. All right, now I think it's time for some fillers. And I noticed on one of my Ostromeria, when I took it out of the container, oh, it was broken. And maybe put him towards the back. And then I've got another nice big one. And he's heavy, so we'll bring him down there. And he will cover nicely. Get him in there. And I do have this one lone little pitiful stalk. I'm not even sure if I want to use him. I don't think it's worthy. This is fantastic. I love it. So much great texture. Like I said, it's in the thistle family. Bring him up here. Definitely going to bring that around. Okay. And then I want to make sure that I've got smooth this up and through here as well. And then I obviously have a nice little area that I want to fill in. So the next thing I want to use are some mini carnations. I think they are so sweet and terribly underrated. I think so many people just think of them as just a little throwaway filler flower, and I think they're delightful. They've got a sweet shape, and many come in so many different colors. And I want to mimic the same thing on this side. I don't necessarily want it to be even, but I do want that shape. I think we'll put that right over here. I think that's cute. We need to build up this back a little bit more. I have a large carnation. I love that little pink frill. It's so sweet. Love that. Oh, I have to tell you this little story as we keep going. So rice flower. I was not familiar with rice flower. And if anybody is familiar, they know that it has a scent. That scent smells like butt. Yes, I said it. It smells like butt. It smells like a farmyard. It is the prettiest, laciest little flower, but it is a stinker. Does anybody else have an experience with that? Or a flower that they think is a stinker? These little button chrysanthemums are so cute. I think you'll find that there's not too many flowers that I don't think are cute. All right, so we are just about at the end of this. I do have a couple of other little minis that will pop in here as filler flowers. And then I'll want to finish up with just making sure all of my mechanics are covered, and then using some of our little extra bits. And that's just going to give it some texture. Pop him up here in the air. I think that makes for some nice balance. All right, so the last thing that I want to do is actually just cover my mechanics, make sure nothing is showing. That's going to take me just a minute. Right now I'm obsessed with pennycrest. I love it, but it is dusty. Oh my God, does it make a mess, but it is so lacy and so pretty. I want to use it in absolutely everything. But I believe it is in the ragweed family. It's a solidago, and it can make a mess. I still think it's worth it. I have found if you hit it with some cheap hairspray for event work, it helps keep that dust down, but it doesn't last for the entire time that you've got your arrangement, because it's going to continue to bloom, if you will. Now, it's good for the event, like, so if you were using something for like a wedding or a funeral and you only needed it for one day, it will keep the dust down for the table. It's actually pollen, and it will just keep it from making a mess on the table. But because flowers continue to bloom after they've been cut, they'll create pollen and then still create a mess. Okay, I don't think I've got any, you can see a little bit of the chicken wire down and through here, and I think that's just something that I have to practice with. But I don't think you see any tape anywhere. Let's get rid of that old guy down there. Okay. My overall opinion on using chicken wire is it's much easier than I thought it was going to be. There's nothing easier, of course, than using Oasis. You cut it, you soak it, you tape it, and you go, and it holds. We've had to think outside the box with going sustainable. I love it. I thought it was really very easy to use, very economical. I think it was $13 for that great big roll, and certainly reusable. You know, take your flowers out, compost them, and then soak your chicken wire in some vinegar, and it's ready for the next arrangement. Honestly, I loved it. So join us for our next video where we're going to examine using a pillow or cage. Remember, these cages have been around since the Victorian era, so I'm really excited about trying something that's kind of old but new again. See you next time.